Hello everybody, thanks for joining and welcome to the second race of the second season of the F1 International Racing League. So we are riding at the circuit Paul Ricard here in France, 50% race with an 18-minute qualifying that you can see now. There are 16 minutes remaining of qualifying. It's a 5.8 kilometer circuit. I think there'll be again about 155 kilometers that will be raced on this 50% race today. Lap record is held by Vettel, which was a 1:32.7 this year. Throughout qualifying practice this week, we've had a few quali runs that I've observed, and I think, without naming any names, we'll see low 130s and possibly maybe even a 129, who knows. But the rest of the field is actually spread out quite evenly, so I think the average quali time here will probably be around a 133, 132, and expect to see some huge battles throughout the race, because as I've been gathering data throughout the week, there are a lot of drivers who are lapping with very similar times, whether it's on their long runs, their quali runs, their race runs, whatever it is. It's going to be a very interesting race. So it's we have a clockwise circuit here, 15 corners, 2 DRS zones. It's going to be very dynamic. There's a lot of difficult corners on here that drivers can take in a variety of different ways, so there isn't like a strict racing line that you have to use when you do this race. So we're going to see a lot of different tactics that are being played out here. There's one DRS detection zone, which we just saw Simon pass through there just as he came out of turn 6, which gives you this DRS down this massive long straight in sector 2 here. And the next DRS detection zone is just out of turn 13, so right before you hit the final left-hander in turn 14, that will give you DRS down the pit straight. So again, if you're within 1 second, expect to see lots of overtakes here. So we've got a few drivers on the outlap now. It looks like it's going to be a dry quali and a dry race, so thanks Max for the heads up there. However, I've never actually raced 50% or more on France without there being rain throughout the middle of the race. Not enough to put on wets, but certainly to add a very interesting dynamic to the race. So I'm not sure if it's a 0% chance of rain here or not, but maybe, hopefully, we might see something interesting happening with the weather here. So last week we were at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and we had an absolutely amazing race, so be sure to check out the video that will be linked below. We had Izzy Kush with the Toro Rosso coming home in first place with 25 points, plus that extra 1 point for the fastest lap also, followed a bit down the road by Leica, who managed second place with 18 points after doing a brave overtake on Max, who finished third in the final lap. Even though Max had penalties, Leica did want to get it done on track, which was great to see. Down in fourth and fifth, we had Mats with the Renault, and we had Kevin, or Don't Duck With Me, with Haas taking up fifth place, and then we had Simon with the Ferrari for 8 points, Legends Tammy in the Toro Rosso for 6, who struggled quite a lot on those medium tyres that we saw throughout that race, followed by Jan in the Williams, who DNF'd in taking in 4 points in 7th. Then we had Lex in 8th, Havoc in the Alfa Romeo in 9th, or in 10th, sorry. So yeah, that was the classification. What does that mean for the constructor standings? Well, we have the Toro Rossos, so with Izzy and Tammy at the top currently with 32 points, followed by Leica and Havoc in the Alfa Romeo, Sauber with 19 points. In third we have Mercedes, which is Max and Legionary God, but Legionary God is not riding for Mercedes anymore, so that's just Max holding that position with 15 points right there. In fourth place we had Renault, which was Markov and Mats with 12 points. In the fifth place we had Haas, which was Fifi and Kevin with 10 points, followed by Ferrari, which is Simon and Bob with 8 points. Williams, which was just Jan, but now also may contain another driver. I need to check on that. Bagpuss, I believe, is driving for the Williams now. They have 4 points. Lex in the McLaren with 2 points, and that made up the standings for the constructors. We have 5 minutes left of qualifying. We'll see. We currently have a quick look at what the best times are. So we've got Mats with a 1:32 on the medium tyre, and Izzy on with a 1:32.1 on the hard tyres right now. Only 6 more drivers are doing something other than the soft tyres there. So hopefully everyone will be out or coming out for their final lap soon. So right now let's ride on board with Bags and see how he's doing. Right, so we have Leica coming on for an out lap. So he will be starting his hot lap after he gets through sector 3 here. So let's stay on board with him and then see how he goes. We also have Simon and Havoc on an out lap as well. So we'll keep an eye on them once Leica finishes his lap, as he now approaches his hot lap. And here we see him making his way around turn 12, coming through the long right-hander at 13. Needs to make sure those tyres are up to temperature. He's managed to keep 100% ERS here, so he will be going for a whopping lap as Tammy picks up a 5-place grid penalty, it looks like there. Interesting. So let's ride on board with Leica now as he goes onto his hot lap. He is on those medium tyres right now. So he brakes at about 65 metres there, takes as much inside curb as possible into turn 1 and then lifts slightly as he goes through turn 2. Now, the turn 3 has so many different braking points here. He brakes at about 75 there, and he goes through, dropping down 2 gears and continuously braking as he approaches turn 5 here. So it's nice and easy through 5. Maybe he could have got on the brakes a little early, but he does have another lift through 6 there, which is necessary to make sure you don't get a huge kick of oversteer as you're riding through 7 there. But he has managed to get a nice and tidy start to sector 2 there. Looks like he'll probably hit about 210 in the speed trap there as he brakes at about 65 again. You need to ride these corners very, very aggressively here as Max retires from the race. So he's done a 133 on hard tyres. But let's stick with Leica here as he approaches turn 10. He's taking as much of the curb as possible there and as much the game will allow him before he gets a penalty to make sure he can turn in nice and early and maintain his speed there as he drops down all the way to 4th gear here as he comes through that long, almost hairpin at turn 11, and the braking point into 12 is very, very tricky because what you want to do in 12 is kind of get on the throttle early, but that pushes you so wide because turn 12 closes up quite quickly and you do want to avoid that. So here he comes through turn 14 as he approaches the final 15, brakes nice and early, gets the car turned in nice and early as well so he can get easy on the throttle and burst that accelerator all the way down the pit straight. And let's see where he finishes. He drops in a 132.0 on those medium tyres, which is great to see. So we also have Simon and Havoc, I believe, on hot laps. So let's watch Simon as he goes through turn 11 there, hits turn 12, and he makes sure he doesn't accelerate early, as I said, and he gets on the throttle perfectly, takes as much as that outside curb at 12 as possible there. As we see a driver moving out the way there as he goes through turn 14. He needs to tuck in a little bit tighter and he needs to turn in nice and early into turn 15. He did manage to do it good early on the throttle again, and he wants to stick to the left hand side here. You need to stick to the left hand side to get the shortest distance from the corner to the pits, but he drops in a 132.8 and it looks like he may actually be going for another lap as well. Max is happy with his time, so he did a 133 on those hard tyres. He is in, well, provisionally he's in 7th at the moment, depending on whatever penalties occur up top, because Legends Tammy does have a 5-second penalty there. But both Izzy and Legends are starting their out laps now. So let's switch to Izzy because we will see a whopper from him. So here he comes into turn 1, brakes extremely late, about 60 metres there, as he almost has to lift slightly as he goes through turn 2, but that is necessary there. Brakes at about 55, so very late. He's getting a little bit messy as he comes through the end of sector 1 here through turns 3, 4 and 5 he's just hit there, but he does manage to fix it correctly as he goes through 6, has a nice and early lift and is early on the throttle as well, which means he's going to have a lot of speed as he comes through turn 7 there, opens the DRS now and begins that massive long straight. Let's see what his speed trap will be. It was 210 I think for Leica. He doesn't manage to hit 210, he sticks to the 209, so he probably has a more downforce setup than Leica does, but he hits these corners as he comes through turn 2, that's 8 and 9, very aggressively actually, and it was quite nice because he didn't get any oversteer or understeer and managed to keep it where he needed to. So let's see if he takes as much curve as Leica does. No, he does not, but he still manages to do that gear upshift into 8 and keep his speed as he comes through turn 11 here. He's got a very nice line through there. He is also early on the throttle. That's nice to see there. Let's see how he does in turn 12. Gets that turned in correctly. Oof, I think he had a little bit of oversteer there that he had to correct. He probably wanted to get on the throttle a little earlier. So currently we have Mats in provisional pole. First place was 1:32.0. We are on board with Izzet Kush right now. Let's see what he can do as he comes down the pitch straight now. He's on a 1:32.1 currently, and he drops into 1:31.3, fastest time of the session. Now let's jump to Tammy, who is probably also on a hot lap right now. So he's coming through turns 9 right now. Let's see how he does. So let's see his sector 2 time as he crosses the line. So he's currently half a second up on his fastest time, so probably not going to be able to beat his time right now, because it looks like as well he also may have had a scruffy first sector. But let's stay on board with him and see how he does. I think he does have a 5-place grid penalty as well, so bear that in mind. Oof, goes in a little bit deep, but manages to pull it back with a correct amount of braking there. Comes through the final corner, goes wide, has a kick of oversteer. Didn't want that. Let's see if he can improve. He was on a 1:32.49, and he crosses the line with a 1:33, so he didn't manage to improve there, and he will be bringing his car back to the pits now. Now, the only other person that's still out is Tom. Is he on a hot lap? He was, but I'm not sure what his time was, unfortunately. Let's see the final classification. So Tom did finish in 11th there. So I was expecting a 1:30, but we only had a 1:31 from Izzet there. So Legends Tammy does pick up that 5-place grid penalty. We have Izzet in first, Mats in second, Leica in third, Kevin in fourth, Tammy in fifth, Havoc in sixth, Simon in seventh, Max in eighth, Mark in ninth, and Bagpuss Gruff making up the top 10. A bit lower down, we've got Tom, Markov, Fifi, Lex, Bob, Sven, and Captain, who did have to retire his car, and he will start last because no one DNF'd, so that did work out in the end. That's good to know.